Hello and welcome back to Scaled Out Customs. We're going to be working on part 3 of the Tamiya's 360 Modena, the Ferrari. We're going to be doing just finishing up the engine. I've got most of it detail painted, but before I finish assembly on it, I want to put a wash on there just to kind of bring out some of the highlights and deepen some of the shadows. So to do that, I'll be using some Mr. Weathering multi-black and then their Mr. Weathering solvent to kind of dull it back down. All right, how's that look? It seems like it goes on really thick because it does, but that's actually what we want because we're going to take most of it back off and it'll look a lot better. So one of the things I love about this this weathering method is you can just kind of keep taking off as much as you want to get the look you want. And I've been really happy with this because the Mr. Surface Solvent doesn't seem to affect the lacquer paint that I've already got on there. So they seem to play nicely together and it gives me a nice look that I want. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to let that dry up and then we'll be ready for some assembly on this thing. So I realized after I got done editing everything that I didn't really talk about or show you guys how I did my heat staining on my exhaust and the muffler and everything. So let's talk a little bit about that now. So what I actually did was I just used Alclad this time. So I went over just a little bit with the transparent yellow, really lightly, then the transparent red, again lightly, and then kind of overcoated everything with a transparent blue, and then just using the airbrush for that. I actually learned this technique from Tom at the Scale Modeling channel, and I've used this as well. So just thin down the Tamiya paints and they work just the same way. So again, start with the yellow really lightly, and then just orange, and then just move up, red, and then blue. So that's how I did my heat staining on my exhaust and the mufflers to get that effect. And then the other thing, I've talked about this in some of my previous videos. This is just a glue looper made by Creative Dynamics, and I just picked this up at MRS Hobby Store, my local hobby store, and they had these, and they actually work really well. Now that I got that straightened up, if you have any questions, let me know, but we'll keep moving along. All right, now that we got the interior and the chassis done, it's time to go back to the body. We're going to wet sand down the imperfections, the dust spots, and get it polished back up so it's looking good. So once again, I'm just going to be using probably 2500 grit, 3000 grit, and then maybe another 1000 grit sanding sponge from Tamiya. All right, got it all sanded down, so then we're going to polish it out. I'm going to start with this Zero Paints medium compound. It's pretty heavy, as you can see. It's pretty thick. So I'm going to start with that and then probably move into the Gravity compounds. Probably 1, and then 2, and then maybe 3, again, depending on what I need. But we'll start with that. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to keep polishing that out, and we'll see you guys in a minute. All right, I got the body polished out. There's only one thing I hate worse than polishing. Well, it's actually polishing. I really do not enjoy that. So moving along, now it's time for window masks. So let's cut these out and go paint some windows. So on these windows, the plastic trim is actually on the outside of the window, and we're going to mask and we're going to paint from the back side. So I want to paint this at the same time, so I'll go ahead and mask these up as well. All right, so for our windows, we're just going to be using semi-gloss black, and I'm just going to thin this down and spray it on with the brush. So the windows are looking really good. This glass is really clear. Well, you really get what you pay for with the Tamiya kits. So I want to put just a little bit of a factory tint on the rear windows, and to do that I'm going to use the Tamiya Smoke. I'm going to over thin this down and then just put a couple of light coats on there. So we'll go do that. Looks pretty good except for some overspray there, so see how I can get that off, but that's looking pretty good. I just used a little Mr. Colors solvent. It's pretty mild stuff, so, but mostly because I have the clear coat on there, it gives it a pretty good protectant. Most of the time that overspray just comes right off, but for some reason this little spot right here doesn't want to cooperate, so I might have to just polish that down a little bit more. Just with some regular polish. Alright, so I had a couple problems with the engine cover, so I masked it up to spray the black vents on the side, and when I peeled the tape off, it caught the corner and peeled off some of my clear. So I thought about stripping it down and starting over, but I'm out of paint, so I just touched it up with a little bit more paint and then re-cleared it. So we'll see, you can still see a little bit of the bumps in there. I'm gonna have to polish that out, see if it'll level it down, but it's as good as it's gonna get right now. Alright, so a little rough. But like I said, I'll have to wet sand that down again and re-polish it back up, but it looks okay. Alright, we're making progress on the Ferrari build. Make sure you tune into the next video where I'm going to complete the build. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos, and we'll see you on the next one.